How do we get from this
Champion and title defender Ben Hogan.
to this?
So short, right? Okay.
It's interesting to think about what will change and what will stay the same within the game we love in 10 to 20 years' time. Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy have debuted their answer to that question with the creation of tomorrow's golf league. Will Tiger and Rory be able to transform the TGL into the TV behemoth that they are hoping for? Or will they fail to carve out a significant viewership in the cutthroat golf industry? Let's take a look into how this could pan out. In order to do that, we first need to understand how we got to this point. Let's throw it over to Matt.
TGL is relying heavily on both its technology and the growing golf audience to be successful. Let's take a quick look back at how these factors have gotten to a point where TGL is even possible in the first place. The very first national live telecast of a golf tournament was the 1954 US Open, where Ed Fergal won his first and only major by fending off Ben Hogan with a score of 4 over par. NBC only broadcasted an hour of that final round, which sounded something like this.
Ed Fergal on the tee, and for an example of the steady golf he's playing, look at this magnificent shot. Head on for the pin.
Aside from that awesome 1950s radio commentary, this broadcast introduced the national audience to what golf could be in the future. Thousands of live fans cheering on players who were battling an intense competition where the margins between providing for their families and going home empty-handed were just inches apart. Major television networks began to realize the growing interest in the sport and grab their own piece of the pie to broadcast the game to larger audiences. CBS has been the primary television partner of the PGA Tour since 1970, ESPN has been involved with golf since the 80s, and Arnold Palmer even helped launch the Golf Channel, which has broadcasted wall-to-wall 24/7 coverage of the game since 1995. The humble beginnings of that very first NBC broadcast led to the blossoming of a multi-billion-dollar golf industry. As for the simulator technology, some reports suggest that the earliest golf simulators were created in retail stores and clubhouses in the 1970s. This was before even the release of the first Apple computer. It was little more than a hitting net. Cameras and sensors became more widely produced in the late 90s and early 2000s, which led to more advanced simulators being produced. It wasn't until 2012 that simulator technology really had a breakthrough, with the company Full Swing. They combine an overhead camera with infrared sensors to not just calculate but measure the golf ball and the club head at impact to give mostly accurate readings. The ripple effects of growing TV network influence and each of those tech innovations can easily be seen today. They've allowed for the recent explosion of golf popularity and interest in future innovation to push the game to new heights. Look no further than the recent debut of the TGL, which is partnered with ESPN and uses a staggering 18 of those Full Swing simulators. Now that TGL's inaugural season is underway, let's throw it back over to Jesse to see how it's performing.
Tiger and Rory are trying to carve out an audience in this growing golf industry with TGL. This modern tech combines virtual reality, augmented reality, real-time data analytics, and a complex shape-shifting green to show us what the future of golf could look like. There are a huge number of famous investors that have ownership stake in this business, including Serena Williams, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Arthur Blank, and many more limited partners. Okay, so they have the biggest names invested in some of the biggest stars in golf playing. But what is this accomplishing so far? Through the first 5 games of their season, the TGL has averaged just south of 900,000 views a match, which can vary pretty wildly depending on if Tiger or Rory are playing or not. To give that context, the PGA Tour averaged just under 2 million viewers during weekend tour broadcasting through the Valero Open in 2024. Additionally, LIV averages around 500,000 viewers per tournament. When taking everything into account, it makes a lot of sense why the TGL is doing so well. First and foremost, timing is everything. They started their season during the tour's off-season when fans are hyped and wanting for golf. This initial excitement could easily slow down as the tour warms up and gets into stride. On top of this, it's a 2-hour weeknight activity. It doesn't take all day, it's even shorter than a football game. These bite-sized portions are much more appealing to most of the younger audience rather than a 4-day slog a tournament could be, not to mention the benefits to busy people with or without kids. This faster and more exciting way of watching golf can be really appealing to the short attention span of the younger audience. TikTok brain. Speaking of that younger audience, let's hit on some numbers that may shed some light on the current state of golf. Young golfers are flooding into the game. The amount is growing at an increasing rate year by year. Most recent data shows there were 4.4 million youth golfers in 2023, meaning they play at least one round a year, with additional data showing an over 40% increase in youth golfers from 2018 to 2024. Golf is becoming cool for young kids, for probably the first time ever since maybe peak Tiger Woods in the early 2000s. These new fans are coming in with open minds and little expectation, which has set the YouTube golf world on fire. Now, Tiger and Rory are also trying to capture this magic and appeal to the younger audience. However, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows for the TGL. There are some glaring weaknesses that they'll have to navigate to be the powerhouse they want to be. First of all, most players will likely prioritize the PGA Tour. That is where their sponsors want them to be, and it's where they can fatten their pockets with prize money if they do well. While the winning team will get $2.25 million, don't get me wrong, a lot of money, these players can make that in a really good weekend of one of the big tournaments. Additionally, the TGL events are always in Florida, while tournaments can be all over the country and world. Travel being taken into account will be key for players that are trying to balance both the Tour and TGL. We'll have to see as the season progresses, but I imagine that could be a huge issue for the future. On that note, it is apparent that players just don't have enough juice out there. They get excited and try to pump up themselves, the crowd, and their teams, but it isn't anywhere near the Ryder Cup level that they were envisioning. Clearly, not many golfers are outgoing showmen and just want to go low while playing good golf. This is something that may change over time as everyone gets more comfortable in this new setting, but only time will tell. While the technology they're using is new and innovative, it is far from perfect. It can be clunky, buggy, and kind of ugly and pixelated on the big screen. For example, recently Tommy Fleetwood flushed a short iron into a 167-yard hole, and the ball went just over 30 yards. That is an unacceptable mistake that could cause real issues if it becomes a theme. However, the technology is young and needs time to grow into what it could be. A missed opportunity that we see would be having the teams picked captured in some way. This would add to the drama of how players were paired together, just like what happens in the Ryder Cup every 2 years. Additionally, they have to figure out how the crowd will be involved. TGL can hold about 1,500 guests, a far call from the 20,000 that can surround Hole 16 in the Waste Management Open. It's hard to get the rowdy crowd effect with so few people. On top of this, tickets are $160 each, prohibiting many of the younger, louder fans from attending. Now, personally, my biggest concern is just not having the ethos of golf. I know that this is innovation, and things need to change to grow the game to others. But for myself and many others, one of the main allures of golf is the outdoor, relaxed, nature-oriented side of it. Nothing is more calming to me than listening to birds chirp on a spring morning at Augusta and hearing Jim Nantz saying, "Hello, friends," as the camera pans away from the pink azaleas to my favorite players. I think navigating the loss of this calming aspect of golf will be a roadblock for the future of this new, fun golf league. However, it is clear that this game needs innovation and support from the younger generation. The TGL just might be how we accomplish that. What do you think? Have you watched the TGL, and how have you enjoyed it?